Hi everybody, it's me, Gemma, and I wanted to come back and do a video about what I read in January this year. Now, January was an okay month. I read 15 books. I had that little bit of holiday towards the beginning of the year, which was great. And also I have been doing like one day less a week, so I've had a bit more time to actually read and make booktube videos. I wanted to get back into doing it. I apologise if there's any bad editing or if I'm going or anything like that, because quite frankly I'm just getting back into talking to the camera, so things may be a little bit less how shall we put it, polished than they were when I last left off. So this year the first book I read was Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Manuscolo, and this is set in an alternate universe Sicily, and it's about a pair of twin witches. There's a prophecy, there's demon princes who are hot, and there is magic. Now I gave this 3 stars, which is an average kind of rating for me. I liked it. It wasn't amazing, but I have picked the next one up, which is Kingdom of the Cursed, I believe, and I will be reading that pretty soon. In fact, I'm about halfway through it and I'm still enjoying it. The next one comes out I think the end of this year, and I'll also be giving her other series, which is Sock and Jack the Ripper, a go, I think, because I quite liked it, and I really like this cover. I think the cover's very cool, so I liked it. Read it. It was kind of new adult for me. I didn't think it was like as explicit as I was expecting, but at the same time it wasn't for kids either, so I would say new adult. And then I don't know why I picked this up. I didn't look at the author before I read it, or else I wouldn't have, because I can't stand Bear Grylls, but it's Extreme Survivors, like 60 Tales of Survival, blah blah blah, and it's fine. I gave it 2 stars because it annoyed me so much. Like, it's just one of those ones that it doesn't go into enough detail about any of them to be worthwhile. And if you know anything about the actual events, like, you could learn more about it from reading the Wikipedia page. Honestly, like, look up the list of what's in the book and then look at the Wikipedia page. You'll get better, more detailed information. You'd be better watching a Discovery Plus episode on each one, honestly. I can't stand Bear Grylls, and this book sucked. So yeah, don't bother with it. It's on Kindle Unlimited, so it's not even, you don't even need to pay for it, but it's just not worth your time. And then I read Domina, The Woman Who Made Imperial Rome by Guy de la Baudoyer, I believe it's how you pronounce his name. And it's basically about the Augustinian dynasty, the start of the Roman sort of monarchy, empire, and the women in the family, and how they sort of guided the dynasty, how they were treated by the dynasty, and how the passage of sort of from emperor to emperor had more to do with who their mother was than who their father was, if you know what I mean. So it was really interesting. Lots of stuff I didn't know. The author appeared a lot on Time Team. If you ever watched Time Team, he was like the Roman expert, and it was really kind of fun because I could hear his voice sort of telling the story because I'd seen him. And I would totally recommend it if you like Roman history, if you want to know a bit more about it. There was lots of stuff I didn't know, and yeah, I gave it 4 stars, so it was probably one of the better non-fiction books I've read so far. And then I read Dead Lake by Darcy Coates, which I gave 3 stars. This was a sort of mystery thriller ghost story. It's about a woman who goes to paint a lakeside house owned by her uncle, and she starts to see ghosts. She starts to have bad, strange experiences, and things are just very weird and kind of scary. She wakes up in the morning and there's paintings that she doesn't remember having done. So I really kind of enjoyed it. I've read a few of Darcy Coates' books now. Her horror books, a lot of them are available on Kindle Unlimited, or they're quite reasonably priced. Sorry, you can hear the dog moaning because I'm not letting them in the shop. And just generally, it was a good, quick little read if you're just looking for something for a cozy afternoon, sitting on the sofa with a candle on, then I'd recommend it. I like Darcy Coates books, and I'll certainly pick up more of them as they come out. And then some more non-fiction. I read Ghosts of K2, The Race for the Summit. This was really interesting, and if you've watched any of my videos, you'll know, or talk to me in person, you'll know that I'm so interested in like the circumpolar north and these really cold, harsh conditions that people, I just don't have that drive to sort of discover and be out there and do crazy things. And that's because about the race to climb K2 and reach the summit. Now, obviously people talk a lot about Everest and it's the highest mountain in the world and da 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 da. But from what I've read, K2, which is the second largest summit peak, is actually a harder climb and more dangerous a climb, which means a lot more sort of very serious mountaineers were very keen to reach the top. And this goes over each expedition, and it uses the primary and secondary sources and talks about the people who went, what the journey was like, the sort of evolution of climbing from alpine climbing to climbing with oxygen. Very interesting stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I have picked up a book as well which is specifically about the Sherpas that climbed K2, because there's no way that any of these Western like groups would have made it to the top of K2 without the Sherpas. It's just, it probably would never have happened. And then some more non-fiction. Oh, by the way, I gave that one 4 stars. And then another 4-star non-fiction read was 1453, The Holy War for Constantinople. I love reading about Byzantine history. It's so interesting, obviously, because it's the continuation of the Roman Empire, and you think, well, the Roman Empire fell, you know, in like the 3rd century AD, 4th century AD, but it actually didn't. It continued on in the East as the Eastern Holy Roman Empire. And you know, when it fell in 1453 and became Istanbul, the history of the Ottoman Empire is very interesting. It was really interesting reading about the actual siege itself, because I hadn't read a lot about that, how they were using new technology to build bigger cannons, siege weaponry, and the walls that had stood around Constantinople since the very beginning, which had kept out invaders before that no problem, were just not up to the standard of modern siege equipment. So very interesting, and also interesting how the Byzantine Empire sat within the political like section of the West, and it's sort of there but not there because it's Orthodox, not Catholic. Very interesting. Interesting to read about the man who was in charge of the Ottoman Empire at the time. Thoroughly recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. And then I had my first 5-star read of the year, which was Rest in Pieces, The Curious Fate of Fave's Corpses. It was really, really good, and it went over some really interesting ones, busted some myths, you know, like about Percy Shelley's heart. What was the other one? It went over a bit about like grave robbing and all that kind of stuff. If you like Ask a Mortician, Caitlin Doughty, if you like Caitlin Doughty's books, then you will like this book, because, as I say, it went over some really interesting stuff, and like, just like for the fact that Oliver Cromwell's head, you know, was still in somebody's living room until like Victorian times, you know, just poor guy, his head just didn't have a good time. And also the heads of like famous composers when they went through that phase of like phrenology, when they were like, let's measure the skulls and see what the skull of a famous composer is like. So that was good, and I recommend it, especially if you're into morbid stuff like me. Now, then I went down a rabbit hole of reading the Tor.com originals, and these are novellas by Tor authors. Most of them were mystery or thriller or horror, and the first one I read was Come See the Living Dryad by Theodora Goss. This one was really interesting. It was about a woman who suffers from a rare genetic condition, and she was part of the sort of sideshow freak community, and she was seen and looked at by the public. People paid to go and see her, and it was about her murder and her descendant, who also suffers for that same genetic condition, going to London to try and find out more about her great great grandmother and about how she died and sort of solve the mystery of who actually killed her. I gave it 4 stars because I enjoyed it an awful lot. And then I went on and read, this is also a Tor original, These Deathless Bones by Cassandra Caw. And this one's about like a sort of wicked stepmother and the stepson that's a prince, but the prince is evil. It was really good, very, very short, but I gave it 5 stars because I thought it was creepy as hell. And it really made me want to read more of Cassandra Caw, which I'll talk about later on in the video, because the second one I read first I didn't enjoy as much. So then I read Red as Blood and White as Bone by Theodora Goss, which was a sort of a kitchen girl who's obsessed with fairy tales, and one day she lets in a woman that she thinks is a princess in disguise. Really cute. Really cute in a way, because it's like a fairy tale, but also because it's a Tor.com original, it's also horror. So I really liked it, and I loved the sort of myth. I love things that have sort of like Eastern European mythological vibes, because it's always good to learn different ones. So yeah, I like that. And then I read Cassandra Caw's full-length novel, Nothing But Blackened Teeth, and I saw on Goodreads someone put a review of it that was basically, what in the fuck knuckles is this? And that is how I felt about this book, because all through it I was just kind of like waiting for something to happen. I was waiting for something else to sort of come out of the woodwork. It's meant to be like a haunted house story set in like a Japanese haunted house, and I don't know, it's one of those ones where you're like, is it me because I don't understand the framework that it's working under, or is it just not for me? You know, it's a weird one. I still gave it 3 stars because there were elements about it that I liked, but I do wonder whether or not it was me, in the sense that I didn't understand the mythology that would have made it scary, or whether it just wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. And then I picked up The Maiden Thief, Maiden Thief by Melissa Marr, and this was another Tor original, and this one was based on the Blackbeard myth. A girl goes looking for her sister. There's a girl that disappears from this village every year, and she's trying to find out what happens, and it's got sort of the Blackbeard myth involved as well. So after that, what did we go on and read? We read the Royal We. I read The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starling, and I gave this 4 stars. I did really enjoy it. It was a really different bit of sci-fi, and I really liked it. It's about a woman who takes on a job which is basically very extreme caving, and she takes on this mission for this person that she doesn't really know, and once she actually gets there and starts working it, she realizes it's nothing like what she thought it was going to be. And it's a sapphic book, and it's got that bit of, I hesitate to call it romance, but it is this very strange bond between the two main characters. I really liked it. It was really good sci-fi, and I recommend it. It was probably the best fiction book that I read this month, in January, I would say. And then I read Peter Darling by Austin Chan, and I had been meaning to pick that up for so long. Like, I saw someone do a video on it way back when I started sort of joining in with BookTube. I think it was Adriana. I think it was. But anyway, I picked it up finally, and it's a retelling of Peter Pan. Not really a retelling, it's a sequel to Peter Pan, I suppose. But I really thoroughly thought it was great, and I loved the ending. I wouldn't want to spoil it for anyone, but basically Peter Pan returns to Neverland when he's an adult and things have changed. And Neverland isn't what he thought it was. So it's a good one. And then last for January, I read The Haunting of Lee Harper, another Darcy Coates one. And this is about it's about a woman who she's very insulated, very isolated, and she suddenly thinks that there's a ghost in her house and she's having a lot of trouble sleeping, and she feels like her sanctuary is being invaded. So really good one, very scary. I think it would make a great little movie. I have to say, and I gave it 4 stars because I really liked it. And like I said earlier, I will definitely read more Darcy Coates as well. So, right, that's everything from me for January, and I will see you again. Take care. Love you. Bye.